Good afternoon, everyone. Allison Scoberg here, Consolidated Planning Group. We are happy to be with you today. I always like to go through a couple housekeeping items. First of all, if this is your first time attending a webinar with us, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you've been attending our webinars in the past, we're certainly glad that you are back. From a housekeeping perspective, we are in webinar mode, which means that we can't see you or hear you, but we do know that you're there. If you have sent in questions ahead of this webinar, we do have those. And our chat box is open today, so we do invite you to put questions in the chat box throughout this presentation. We will answer as many as we have, as time allows today. If you're planning your time, we're going for an hour today. This webinar is being recorded. Everybody is going to get a copy of today's slides and a link to the recording, so you don't have to take notes on every single thing that you hear today. We are going to be talking about consistency for the inconsistent, routines that stick for your loved ones with ADHD and other learning differences. We're happy to be here with Ellen Delap. We've done webinars with her in the past, and we're certainly happy to have you back here with us today. So I just like to share a moment of a little bit about Consolidated Planning Group and who we are and what we do. We are a holistic special needs financial planning firm. We're nationally certified as Social Security advisors, members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, chartered special needs consultants. Families come to us because they want to plan for the future of their loved one with a disability. They have questions like, who's going to care for my child when I'm gone? What are the public benefits out there? When should we apply for these? What do we qualify for? How much money do we need to fund a special needs trust? So we help families just like yours plan for the future, plan for yourself in the 25 to 35 years that you might spend in retirement, as well as plan for the future of your loved one with a disability. And some families have more than one loved one with a disability, so we can certainly help with that. We do a lot of transition planning, lifetime care planning. We are an advisory and consulting firm. Most of the families that come to us, they may already have a financial advisor. Their financial advisor doesn't have any background with disabilities or public benefits. So what we always suggest is that when you're working with a professional, your situation is specialized, so we do suggest that you work with a specialist, whether you work with us or you work with somebody else. When it comes to the financial planning, work with a special needs planning firm. When it comes to your legal documents, work with an attorney that is specifically nuanced with individuals that have disabilities. That's very, very important and critical to maintaining eligibility for state and federally funded programs that you probably worked really hard to get. So we always talk about developing a future care plan. We encourage people to start thinking about these things now when we're of sound mind and body, and not waiting for a crisis to occur or the other shoe to drop when we realize that maybe we didn't have the plan in place that we had hoped for. So having said that, I want to get right into our content today. And again, I invite everybody to put their questions in the chat box today. And Ellen, I am going to turn it over to you. Thanks for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to being with you all and sharing a little bit about how you can help your loved ones in a supportive role, helping them do the things they really wish they could do on their own, but you're going to be there to support them in different ways throughout the day and as they have their own goals. So a little bit about me. I am a certified professional organizer, one of about 350 of us globally. I have certain certificates of study in ADHD, a master's in education from Boston College, and over 25 years in the industry of professional organizing. Allison, I don't know if you can advance the slide or not, but I can pick up. I don't know if I can pick it up either. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So research supports why habits and routines matter. And while many people feel that these are overwhelming them and also a good reason why we should have habits and routines. One of the biggest reasons I find is it reduces our decision fatigue, meaning we don't have to think every day, what order of things do we need to do things? It also improves our daily quality of life. Every day we have the same consistent start of the day and end of the day, which relieves our anxiety. It also supports our executive function. Executive function challenges are a major part of what people with ADHD and other learning differences face. And as a result, we're helping smooth over that executive function dysfunction. But most importantly, it creates calm and consistency throughout the day, meaning that you don't have to worry, will I be sure that I took my medicine today? Will I be sure that I get in bed on time? Will the homework get done for your kiddos? So all the things that we are anxious about, we know that we have them built into our day so that we can make our day the way we want it to be. We can be accomplished, and we can also have peace of mind every day. So, a little bit about executive function. Some of the things that executive function struggles are: how much time does it take for us to have our routine every day? So, time and planning might be an issue when we're starting to support others with their executive function and being more consistent. Now we have a great plan, but how do we start that plan? Initiation, we'll talk a lot about in the next hour, how we can help people get started when their intention is to get started, but it's a real struggle. And also prioritizing. Just how important is it for us to accomplish these tasks? And what I find when we talk about consistency, many of the things have to do with self-care. And one of the questions that came in was, what kind of morning and evening routines help us be most consistent? And when we talk about prioritizing, some of those self-care items don't get the priority they need, such as going to bed at time or feeling we can get things done in the way we plan them. So as we're thinking about executive function, let's think about the planning and prioritizing that are our next steps. What makes habits hard are things like motivation, and it waves with our emotional regulation and how our habits can feel better with with that emotional regulation. How might we feel that we could improve on how sensitive we are to the different ways that we have our consistency set out for us, how habits get started and how difficult it is sometimes because we get bored with those habits, or how difficult might it make be for us to be thinking about how do we get started on something in general, and overall, how do we feel most at home with feeling more in touch with our habits and new routines. So be thinking about what is something that is a baby step that might have impacted our feeling overwhelmed or starting our habits. And those baby steps are going to lead us forward. And as we learn more about how we can help those we love to start their habits and continue them as well. So there's so many ways support can be offered to all of those we love. The support might first look like body doubling being in the same space, lending the energy and priority to an activity or a task. The support might also be like having a coaching conversation with your loved one, meaning let's get on the same page. Let's talk about why is this a priority? What's important about what we're doing today? So those coaching conversations lead us into us making good decisions with our loved one and helping our loved one make good decisions. That support might also look like just carefully listening and reflecting back. What are we hearing from our loved ones? What are some difficult things that they're facing that we can be supportive about? And finally, just thinking about non-judgmental conversations that we're having with those we love so that they can feel supported, make good decisions that help them move forward in their goals. So here's where you can help. These 5 different ways are some simple ways that you can make a difference for those you love, starting with external structure, some accountability, some visual cues, the simplicity of a system, and managing transitions, how difficult it is to make it easier for the transitions that make us easier to be more consistent. So external structures talked about so often by experts in our field, and thinking about how we set up our environment helps us do our best work, as well as helps us be more consistent about what our plan is. So for our loved ones, we might work together with them to set up something that is a landing strip or a command center. A landing strip being a zone in your house where things come and go so that at your door that it's easier for you to set up your daily living, drop things off at the front door, or it might be your command center, which has to do with your paperwork. So having those easy to drop off spots makes it easier to be more consistent. And because you see them, it's easier for you to accomplish that as well. Clear surfaces, of course, make it much easier for you and your loved one to find a place for everything. And this external environment, leaving things out as you need them every day, put them away when you don't, a home for everything, a place for everything. It's much easier for you to be consistent because you know where do those things go and you see the difference. And as a result, you feel elevated and much more calm. And finally, the systems for reminders. How many of us we need reminders, right? Because there's so much going on in our environments at all times. So there's so many distractions. Make it easy by making things very visual, using a label maker, or even just a piece of tape with taping down a index card with a Sharpie marker. Those are great ways for you to know where does everything go. And also, it just eliminates a lot of frustration because then not only you and your loved one know where do things belong, it's easy for you to put them away. And of course, we can't forget our reminders that are auditory as well. Certain music, bells, chimes, things that alert us to transitions that are coming up. So the external structure alleviates a lot of frustration and it signals to both you and your loved one the systems you have put into place externally throughout your home or your work. So accountability is something that we talk a lot about in the world right now. Everyone needs accountability. That accountability is what we though. Instead of being harsh, giving people feedback that's very negative, we want to be thinking about what does supportive accountability look like? So I've mentioned body doubling at a set time. So body doubling is very miraculous to everyone who's involved in it. Not only do you feel the energy of the other person, it tethers you to the task or the activity or where you are accomplishing a goal together. You feel that sense of accomplishment and pride in your work together. It might look like collaborative check-ins. Now, no one wants an extra meeting on their calendar, but when it's very quick, and it even could be a text, or it could be just a quick phone call, whatever you feel most comfortable with, these collaborative check-ins are not only for you and your loved one, but you both can benefit from the check-in because you, in support of your loved one, not only get that accountability for yourself, which we all need accountability. Accountability might be data tracking. There's lots of apps, I'm going to talk about a few in a minute, that have to do with how you can gather data. All of us are very familiar with our Apple Watches and how much data they give us. And that kind of data can help you be accountable to your goals as well. So be looking about what kind of apps or technology might help you with the kind of data that you might need. And then a lot of the people that I work with are verbal processors. And so for you and your loved one to come together to prioritize why a certain habit is very important can make all the difference for accountability. And it is not only a single conversation, it's multiple conversations that reinforce that priority. And why do you feel that you and that person together can come to a conclusion of the value of it for them?
Ellen, can you tell us some apps that you have found are the other families that you work with have found useful, and also to anybody in our audience that have used apps with their family. If you want to share in the chat some of the apps that have worked for you, I think that's always a plus. And our kids like
Absolutely.
technology, so this is a good thing.
Absolutely. So I am sure you're familiar with Finch. It's an app that helps you track daily habits. It's very adorable, but I have many of my high-level professionals, doctors and lawyers also use Finch. And Finch is a little bird community that you build community and you have access to more things your bird will do as you gain traction in your habits. Another one of my favorites is Daylio. It's Daylio, and that is also a habit and mood tracker, which can be very valuable for people to see when they're encountering frustration, when the alignment of their self-care is not as good as what you might need to feel more consistent about your habits. So those are some of the things that those two in particular stick out. And a lot of my clients use both of them, and people kind of come and go with them. You know, they use them for a while, they don't find them effective, they come back to them. So feel free to embark on using them. And they're both free apps, and they also have, paid clicks in them to access certain additional features, but they're totally free. The um, the apps, so you can get
Awesome.
started with them.
Thank
Hmm.
you for sharing that.
Sure. The visual supports, I find people find being visual is just integrated into 80% of the things we do. 80% of the people I work with are highly visual people. And so these are some supports that, without even talking with your loved one, that you can put into place. Whiteboards, lots of fun, lots of color involved, and easy to access. All these things are available at local shops and online. Color coding. Again, color coding in different places. A lot of my clients use paper calendars, so we do a lot of color coding on there. Labels. My favorite label maker is the Brother P Touch. I use the half-inch tape, the white label with the black letters. I'm very consistent. I don't think we need to overdo the color coding on your labels, but I do feel like you need to overlabel. Overlabeling is something you and your family members will all find very calming to life as you work as a unit and as a team. Checklists. Again, there's any number of checklists available throughout Pinterest and Instagram where you can find or you can create your own in many of us use Canva. So they're very attractive. Or you can combine the whiteboard, the color coding, and the checklist by writing things down on a dry erase board, and then you can color code. And then Jessica McCabe, who's one of her podcast is called How to ADHD, talks about if you can't see it, it might not exist. So creating a visual support for you and your loved one can ease a lot of friction, but also can make things a lot more fun in the habits you're trying to create. So I think things are highly overcomplicated in the universe we live in. Any more things take a lot more time, there's a lot more steps. So, see if you, by verbally processing with your loved one, if there's an easy way for you to eliminate some steps in complicating habits in your house. Like identify something that is the babyest of baby steps. And I'm often really, really impressed by my clients' ability to simplify things when we talk about them. Like instead of keeping things complicated, my mantra myself is keep it simple, sweetie. So identify the friction by talking with your loved one and then just update the step. So go through this simplifying strategy on a pretty regular basis because we tend to lean into complexity. Unfortunately, it just makes things harder and harder. So we want to keep it simple, sweetie.
Ellen, I think of this, and I think of a common theme for parents with all kids, and not just kids that are ADHD. But I think of go upstairs, put your pajamas on, lay your clothes out, brush your teeth, and get in bed. Like you've like rattled out five or six things,
Hmm.
and then they get up to the top of the stairs and they think, "What am I doing again?" And
Yeah,
and so like simplifying that by having some of those charts and some of the things that you're doing, but remembering that ADHD brain is scattered. So when you're rattling off what seems like common sense to you of here are the following steps that you need to do, and they're thinking, go up the steps. You know, um,
exactly.
kind of simplifying those things and realizing how it is processed when you rattle off all of those things at once. It's really hard for them. And
It is
I
very.
personally had to learn that myself in parenting, that to keep it simple, take it down, and then there's more success. Take the little successes and then build on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And someone had asked about some of those types of things in the classroom too. And those apply, teachers don't realize their day is very hurried. Like you can't overload the children in your classroom with a sequence of too many steps either. So yes, simplifying is so important in the classroom as well. And one of the other things I've noticed that's really important is how we phrase transitions. And it's a real friction point in families because your children are not the best at transitions. And again, it's a piece of the executive function dysfunction that we're looking at. So try to create some bridges. And by bridges, I mean some baby steps between tasks. So if your child or your family member is about to head into a different direction. We're getting ready to get in the car. We're getting ready to go to school. We're getting ready for bed. In the morning, we need to get out of the house. Think about some baby steps that go like a 5 minute warning with a timer, or the music is playing and then the transition song is always the same. So just use the phrase the next step because you're building executive function while you're building better habits as well. So those transition times can be really important for your family and for those you love.
I think sometimes the time in general, I mean, I think in general, sometimes we think that it would be better for our kids to sleep a little bit longer, but a lot of times they need that lead time. And it's like whenever they sleep a little bit longer, they're a little bit later, we're a little bit later out the door. Parents are a little bit more stressed. Things are starting to fall apart. So allowing enough time for those tasks, especially if we have kids that are procrastinators or need a lot of cueing and reminders and things like that. Um, if I allowed more time, then we had more success.
Exactly. Always give yourself more time than you think you need, especially if you are the neurodivergent parent. It's often hard for you as well to gauge how much time. So double the time or even triple the time that you think you need, because that will release um, just that sense of rushedness that we all are feeling every day anyway. So I wanted to include a couple of experts that I rely on for learning from. James Clear, his book is Atomic Habits, and then Jessica McCabe, I mentioned, and then also um, Ari Tuckman, who is our one of our most important researchers and also a therapist in the ADHD realm. Michelle, do you think you can
You that
pop
are,
us back?
yeah, I'm about to get that.
Thanks.
My internet decided to stop working about 3 minutes before we were due to hop onto this webinar. So I apologize for going out and coming back in and this, but I've got it all back up now. We're ready. I'm so sorry for all of that. And I'm
Oh,
going
no
to just scoot
worries.
over to the slide that you were on, I
What
think.
I love is that we all have the bandwidth to handle it.
Yeah, I had to text Allison really fast and say, please hop on. Where were we?
Keep going to the experts. I think we're about 5 slides in. Keep going. Yep.
Oh, I just saw that transitions.
Yep.
Here we go.
There we are.
Experts.
Great.
I
So,
apologize, everybody.
oh,
And
no
thank you
worries.
so much to Allison for being able to hop in and get this going.
Absolutely. I really am grateful to all of y'all for hanging in there because it is a little like oopsie.
Yes.
Okay, so go on to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about what James Clear has to share with us about habits. And he says, make it obvious and easy. Now, who doesn't love easy, right? That is not what's going
Oh,
on
yeah. We
in most
love
of the
the
time.
easy button.
So easy means you don't even have to think about the next step. It's just so clear and obvious. And again, it's an opportunity for creativity. You know, your kiddos sleeping in their clothes rather than having to change into them in the morning or having the shoes right by the back door. So, of course, you can't leave the house without them because you have to put them on as you exit. Start tiny, very tiny, as tiny as possible, and then just baby steps. You like a 1 minute tidy, just do one email, just to keep from being overwhelmed because we're so overwhelmed in the world we live in. It's so much coming at us at one time. So remember, try to focus just in on the one thing, even though there's so much coming. And think about a pause, and James doesn't talk about this, but it's very clear. This morning I was listening to a Brené Brown podcast, and she talked about how powerful a pause is for emotional regulation. In creating habits, it just refocuses us too to what our goal is.
That's so important. Those transitions are everything.
Absolutely. So Jessica McCabe, who is How to ADHD. She's so entertaining in her podcast. She talks about the external reminders that we talked about earlier and how valuable that is for us because our environment is playing such an important role in helping us create habits. Reducing frictions, and reducing frictions means having items ready. You know, there's a fine line between visual clutter, where we have things out so we see them, and feeling stressed. So just know that having items where it's easy to access them, even if they're not out on the counter or right in front of you, makes it much, much simpler to create a better habit. And then building on existing habits. Allison just mentioned this. Really, the goal is to add a teeny new habit to a really strong existing habit. And I have to say, one of the things I find often is habits do dissipate. And when that happens, don't get alarmed. Inconsistency is to be expected. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Our expectation is that we're going to start right back up on those habits, even when they evaporate. So, Ari Tuckman, I love what he says. ADHD is a disorder of knowing what we know. So, all of our all the people I work with are brilliant. They're creative, they're resourceful, but sometimes initiation is what's standing in their way of creating a habit. And then not remembering because of working memory could be standing in the way of a habit. So just set up your environment to help you remember. He talks about matching your tasks to your brain power. So often when we're thinking about these habits we're trying to help our loved ones with, they may be at a very low energy point in their day. Perfect example, after school. Kiddo walks in the door. Kiddo is completely drained because they've already held it together for 6 hours. And we have to think, what are we going to be able to help them regroup at that point? What habit can we create before homework time? And that habit might be something to do with downtime, something where they can really regenerate their energy. That's a perfect time to have the habit of a snack that's protein based. So be thinking about like what matches the habit to the amount of energy you have at that moment. And then Ari also
And
talks,
go
go ahead.
ahead. Well, I was
And
just going
cutting,
to say that it could be different for different people too. You know, some people can
absolutely.
have background music while they work and for other people have to have, zero interruptions. And so it's different for everyone.
Absolutely. And it really is that support that you're giving people that you help them empower that because you've probably heard this many times, Michelle. I don't see how my kid works with all that noise in the background and they're doing their homework, but they're
Right.
doing great at it, right? Because we often try to impose our sense of what the environment should look like versus our kiddos, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So just think about what the noise is to each individual, and your loved one is happy to share with you what that noise feels and sounds like. So having these conversations can be very empowering to you as the parent to learn more about what makes your kiddo work and what works best for them. So I did include a couple slides on different areas of the day. Um, I love morning routines because it's a send off for the day, and it's such a great way for us to say, we support you, we love you, here you go. But think about preparing the night before. I love to say a productive day starts the night before. So that might be getting clothes laid out the night before. That might be putting items in their order of use so that visual cue is there for you. The visual checklist, that dry erase board with the checklist on it in different colors. And one of my most valuable things I want to share with you is adding more analog clocks in transition spots because you also want your kiddos to become as independent as they can be and your family members. So I suggest adding these analog, which is the one with the face, which we all think, oh, how could that be different? But there's something that an analog clock and your brain connect in a completely different way. So in a bathroom is a great place for an analog clock. At the back door, when you're trying to get shoes on, is a great place for the analog clock. So just be thinking, set up your environment, use your visual reminders, and then you're going to be in much better shape for being more consistent about getting where you need to go at a certain time and doing it smoothly and calmly. Now, the launch pad, I also call it the landing strip. That's the spot where you're going to jet out of the house from. And those essential things like shoes and bags for you and your loved one should hooks or places go spot. And then remember, we'll reset. I talk a lot about the Sunday reset, and you can go every Sunday. It's another routine, it's another habit that you can cultivate, and it's um, getting things ready for the week, the Sunday reset. So every weekend, you're going to have to get those shoes back to where they belong. There's all sorts of wrappers and trash in the bags. Get back in there and get things ready for the rest of the week again. So that landing strip or that launch pad is one of those visual external cues to you. We're ready to go.
Mhm.
Now, loved ones who go to work might also need some support. And so a lot of times starting work, that initiation takes a lot of energy, and we need to get cognitively together to be able to do our best work. So I always remind people when we were in high school and we went from English class to math class. In math class, they gave us these warm ups so we could think like our math brain is working. So think about how to use a 5 minute tidy as your warm up for your day. So by rearranging things physically, sometimes that helps people by cognitively making that list, picking your top three priorities of the day. Those are kinesthetic, we're writing them down, checking our calendar, like what's coming up today. Hopefully, nothing's going to surprise me. And just sometimes we need that 5 minute timer to create a little bit of urgency for us to get started. So if your loved one needs more support, this might be a conversation y'all could set up together. What step could you take as a warm up to get ready for your day to get going? Now, I do know that I have a question here from someone who their son is a truck driver. And I was going to say the precursor, remember, to all good work is good self-care. So the best start to a work day is a great night's rest. So
Yeah.
I know it's really a struggle for people to get a great night's rest, but um, that will probably be, something you can do a deep dive on yourself, your own personal way to get a good night's rest. I mean, Michelle, what's your best way to get a good night's rest for you?
Oh my goodness. For me personally, I love a little bit of chocolate just at the end of the day when I'm like getting ready to go to bed. A little bit of dark chocolate with sea salt in it. It just tells my brain, oh, we've done a good job today. Now we can shut down and chill out.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Yeah, so be thinking about these things like what's going to work for you. And so our evening routine, like Allison said, allow for extra time and start early. No one's hopping into bed. Kids are way
Mhm.
overstimulated. Your loved ones are overstimulated. They are not ready to shut down. So we have to cultivate a routine that's going to help. The transition reminders we talked about. And then one of the other areas I find especially helpful is to have what I call the common charging spot. This is the spot, and I know a lot of people use their phones for lots of ways to be alarms and alerts. But if you can choose an old-fashioned alarm clock that is battery operated or wind up and use that and charge your devices someplace away from you. But if you can't, at the very least, set them aside an hour before bedtime so that you are giving your brain the opportunity to relax and get ready for restful evening. And then, everybody has their own, like I loved Michelle, the dark chocolate with sea salt. In my house, it's Antarctica. It's got to be freezing cold.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
So
And
create a system.
I see blanket heaviness. Maybe I do too much. The chocolate, it's got to be cold with the fan on high, and I have a weighted blanket. So
Yes.
sleep is sacred.
Yes. And I hope everybody equally feels that about sleep is sacred. I agree. And this is a conversation that's a very I think everyone like in our family we have lots of conversations about the sleep
Oh
situations everyone
yes.
it's very fun to hear what's important. So of course I have to have a slide on self-care support because without a doubt it is the most important for your loved ones and you. Teaming up, like working together as a team, that body doubling creates so much energy and positivity. And knowing that people are really doing their best, that they're struggling and you're there to support them, that's so endearing. Start, everyone has a bedtime routine. Knowing your why. Why are these habits important to us? Why are we so insistent on self-care? And then make it fun. There's, without a doubt, laughter is the best medicine. So be thinking about the ways you can make self-care more fun.
Laughter makes everything more fun,
It does.
and fun makes everything better.
Yes, exactly. So we talked a little bit about digital supports. I mentioned Dalio and Finch, but reminders on your super easy. Notes, that little, thing that looks like a post-it note on your phone. Those are amazing digital supports. If you want something more automated, there's lots of opportunity now for ways to create automation. It really, if you want to do a deep dive in that, there's lots of information on Forbes and New York Times and Wirecutter on those type of sports. I like to keep it simple. So, but that automation can be very, very valuable.
And there's family calendars. Those are
Mhm.
very, very helpful too. Family calendars or the Alexa lists that she can put together that you can just be in your kitchen. And if you have that device, just say her name, put this on my shopping list. I can't say it because she will.
You know what? I recently wrote a post on how ChatGPT can help you do all these things too. So there's a lot of resources out there, and more are coming. This is definitely
Mhm.
needed for everyone. So some quick fixes, just really elevate the micro wins for you and your loved one. Like everything is a win, no matter how much of a baby step it is. That's going to be such an encouragement to people to keep going. It's really important to focus on the positive. Tracking your baby steps, you know, I think we're familiar with all the different ways that we can just do hash, little marks places. Just track how much you're winning as opposed to dwelling on how difficult consistency is, because there's much more winning going on than we're ever acknowledging. And of course,
Exactly.
celebrate the process. Like, have fun doing the habits and creating the habits together, because that, just like Michelle just said, it's going to make these happen more quickly. So, expecting some inconsistency can be really powerful. When things stop, just remember, just keep going. And being mad at our brain just never happens. So, be thinking, what are the ways that we can bring more effort into our everyday life and managing the expectations? What types of things might be coming when things are reducing difficulty with different habits starting? Managing expectations means we're not going to expect every day is perfect. Managing expectations means we're going to have some bumps in the road. We do expect them. And again, being bad at your brain is not going to help. So don't be so frustrated with yourself. Give yourself grace. Be thinking tomorrow's another day. In the next hour, I can restart. Just get back on that horse when he bucks you off. So just be realistic about how quickly you can create these new habits with you and your loved ones.
I love that advice.
So we're going to
So
wrap
thank
up.
you.
If I don't know if we have any questions. I know there's a couple questions here. Creating healthy habits for kids with autism. I would say one of the things is um, start very, very small with the routines. I know we have like a lot of sensitive to textures, food. I know that it's on you more than your loved one to help encourage some experimentation, which is not natural. And I think many of the things that we talked about today, especially with giving more time, transitions, those are very helpful for our kiddos with autism as well.
Yeah, I think that will help a lot. Just take it down a notch to meet them where they are and build
Mhm.
those routines slowly. Things are not going to change overnight. And exactly like your previous slide, what we know will never change is that things are always going to change. That's one thing you can always expect is change. So, prepare for that. Be ready.
Exactly. Were there any questions that popped up today while I was talking?
No, I do not see a lot of questions. Here's one in the chat box. If you're doing these routines and timelines and you're trying to use play therapy and other things you've suggested, but they're still having major meltdowns, how can you best handle that? Or is there, some reading material that you can point us to help, for a 6-year-old with ADHD who's just not ready?
I think exactly what you said a little earlier is we have to meet them where they're at. They may have too much structure and stimulation, might be,
Hmm.
and too much transition going on between their activities. Um, I would have a consultation with your team. I didn't talk a little bit about that, but it's really important for all of us to have a team approach. Like we all need therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. So I bring your team together, see what everyone is noticing. And so that also gives you more ideas because the experts that you've surrounded yourself with will be able to offer resources and also just different ways of looking at things.
Yeah, and it's so important to have that circle of support around you and
It is.
your expert team that's going to help. I saw one presenter talk about it in terms of a bullseye. In the very center is your immediate core family, mom, dad, kiddos. And then maybe outside of that, you have your trusted family members and best friends. And then you have your maybe medical team and attorneys and financial advisors and professionals. So you have that support system, and it just depends what levels they're on. But as you talk to different people in your support group, like you were saying, Ellen, I love that idea to just, what do you see, Jennifer, at home? What do you see, Michelle, at school? What do you see, Ellen, at the playground? What's happening with my child, and where are they thriving? Where are they having these difficulties? What triggers meltdowns? And how can we kind of recollaborate to be where we need to be?
Right. And as the parent, I think that gives you so much support too, that we're always wondering, are we on the right track? And when the people around us supporting us, we know we're on the right track. And that makes a big difference in your interactions with your kiddo too, is that you
And
feel secure.
yes, yes. Another great thing for that, that support is Facebook. There are all these great
Oh my
support groups like
gosh, yes,
Awesome Moms and, different, the ARC and Parent to Parent networks and
yes.
all of these great support groups on Facebook. And you can even post anonymously for certain things. I mean, don't do it all the time, but you can post anonymously and get some help and say, you know, I know I'm not the only one who has a 6-year-old with ADHD. I have trouble at this point. Does anybody have a great bedtime routine that they love with their 6-year-old that seems to be working? Gathering ideas for things like that is hugely beneficial. And of course, then you can also return to that group for things like I'm looking for a new ABA therapist, or I need an idea for a school, or anything else you need. They can help you with those things as well.
That's super helpful. Thank you. That's
So
great.
this list, that's all the questions that we have in the chat box right now. But listen, guys, I have 3 or 4 more slides about consolidated planning group. I hope that you will put some more questions in the chat box while I finish up the rest of my slides for Ellen, and we'll get those before we sign off today. So, at Consolidated Planning Group, we do these webinars 3 times a week. So whether this is the first one you've ever been to or the 30th, we're glad you're here. We hope that you're getting some helpful advice. We do want you to keep these things on your radar. Be thinking about developing a special needs care plan for the future. Think about what it's going to cost to be able to continue giving care to your loved one even after you're gone. And what does that look like? How is that going to work? Those are the types of things and areas that we really help you focus on. The government and state and federal government benefits like waiver programs, SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, Medicare, all of that is like a puzzle that you need to piece together. And you need to be thinking about how these different tools complement each other, what is most important to your family, and what you need to have in place for your specific situation. So you can click, this is a link where it will take you to our website. Our upcoming events tab has all of our webinars that we've got planned for the next month or so. And you can go in there and pre-register. So that way you'll have the link ready to go. You'll have it on your calendar, and you'll even get reminders Once the webinar is over, even if you miss it, you're going to get a copy of the slides and a link to that recording on our YouTube channel. So I'm sure Allison mentioned that we do record all of these and put them on the YouTube channel. Plus, it gives you a chance to send in questions before the webinar even starts so that we have those questions ahead of time and can answer them during the session. This is our whole team at Consolidated Planning Group. Allison and I are the two that do the presentations and the webinars, usually not both on the same day, but hey, things happen. And then these fine gentlemen are our husbands. They are the other half of the financial planning team at Consolidated Planning Group. Then we've got this great staff. They take care of the background information and keep us on track. So at Consolidated Planning Group, just keep in mind that we are experts in the field. We are chartered special needs consultants, national social security advisors, and members of the Academy of Special Needs Planning. We take this very seriously. We also offer a completely free initial consultation. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a couple of seconds. You can use the QR code. I think COVID has taught pretty much everyone how to use a QR code by now. But there's instructions there, or you can simply call or email me personally. I put my info in the chat box, or you can call or email the office and we can get you scheduled. So this free initial consultation is over Zoom. It usually is about 30 to 45 minutes, and we are there to answer your questions first and foremost. We do ask you to fill out a short questionnaire so that we can give you some timely advice and maybe see a little bit of what you've done and advise you on next steps and learn about your family. And then we tell you about, this is what the process looks like. This is what we deliver to our clients. And here's how much it costs if you would like to work with us going forward. So the information we give you in there is very helpful usually. And then, you get the sales pitch as well. So when you think about whether or not you would like to have a free consultation, we will be reaching out to you to see if you have any questions following today's webinar or if you want to sign up. If you don't want us to call you, just sign up before we call. And if we do call you and you're thinking it would be a good idea just to cuss us out and hang up, please look at all these friendly, smiling faces. Why would you want to do that? That's no fun. We're here to help you. Of course, our YouTube channel, Instagram, our podcast, and our Facebook are all available as clickable links here. And then finally, we've got some little disclosures for you, letting you know how we get the awards we get, and that, what we're telling you today is not financial advice. It's just general advice. So Brandy says that Mothers Together is wonderful. It's a wonderful resource. Thank you for that note, Brandy. I think I talked to you yesterday. Anyway, that's all we have for you today. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for being patient with my internet connectivity issues. I hope that didn't cause too much of a headache or anything like that. It's rare that happens, but once it does, I'm really glad that we have a collaborative team that can take care of your webinar for you. Well, in that case, if no more questions, I will give you back the rest of your day. I hope you have a fantastic day, that you are all keeping warm, and that you just keep us in mind. If you need anything, if you have questions, we're here to help. Thanks a lot, Ellen, for presenting today.
Thank
all
you.
the wonderful information you gave us has been very helpful. Bye, everybody.
Bye.